Right after takeoff, I sent one short message to the family group chat. No dramatic punctuation, no emojis, just, "Flight lands at 3 p.m. Can someone pick me up? I just buried my husband. A military funeral overseas. Folded flag, 21-gun salute. A casket that felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. Even though I wasn't the one lifting it. Years of marriage had been spent mostly apart. Deployments don't wait for anniversaries. But love doesn't keep a ledger, so I wasn't asking for much. Just a ride home. Before the plane even reached cruising altitude, the replies came. From my brother, "We're busy. Try Uber." 2 minutes later, from my mother. "Why didn't you plan better?" "No, how was the funeral?" "No, we're so sorry," or "We're proud of him." Just quick, cold words that cut clean. I sat by the window, watching clouds roll past, feeling a silence that wasn't born from grief. It was from realization. You grow up believing family will catch you, only to learn sometimes they're the ones holding the knife. I typed back, "No worries." That was it. No fight, no guilt trip, just quiet. When we landed, I didn't cry or linger. I pulled my coat tighter, walked past the baggage carousel and the reunions, and stepped into the black SUV waiting for me. They didn't know who else had flown back with me, what I had in my possession from the base, or who was waiting to meet me. That night, I didn't post, didn't send a follow-up. But when the 9 p.m. news aired, I know they saw. I know they froze mid-bite, my mother's wine glass slipping against tile. The segment was less than a minute long. Right after the weather, before sports. The anchor's calm voice. Today, a widow returned home from her husband's overseas military burial alone, but not unnoticed. Footage rolled, black SUV, me stepping out in black, the folded triangle of the flag pressed to my chest. Behind me, 3 uniformed Marines, 2 women, 1 man, standing at full attention. The camera caught the moment I turned and handed a small, white ribbon box to one of them. The anchor explained. Her husband's former unit arranged a military tribute and personal escort. She declined interviews but left one handwritten note for the press. My handwriting filled the screen. If you ever find yourself standing alone at the edge of grief, don't look for the people who left you there. Look for the ones who show up anyway. RM. They didn't need my full name. Everyone in that group chat knew. The last shot was me walking between 2 Marines toward the SUV. Head high, back straight, no tears, no plea for sympathy. Just truth. The family chat stayed silent for 24 hours. My sister-in-law finally messaged privately. "Was that you on Channel 5? I didn't reply. She didn't press. But the image had spread everywhere, and the people who left me stranded were scrambling to rewrite history. My mother tried first, posted an old photo of me and my brother as kids at a 4th of July parade with the caption, "Family above all, always." I didn't react, but the top comment from a stranger said it all. "You didn't even pick her up from the airport." That comment got shared and shared again. Then my brother texted, "Didn't realize it was that serious. You should have said something." As though grief sends out invitations. As though burying my husband in a country they can't even pronounce was something to be better scheduled. I typed a few replies, deleted them all, then finally sent. "You made your choice. So did I." The best part? I didn't have to say anything else. The media had already called for a follow-up, this time wanting me to speak. I hadn't planned on it, but silence often shields the wrong people. So I said yes, not for sympathy but for truth. In a quiet studio, no flashy lights, the anchor asked gently, "What happened when you landed?" I took a breath and said the line I'd been holding. "I buried my husband with honor and came home to silence." I told them everything. The short message I'd sent, the cold replies, the absence of family, and the presence of strangers in uniform who understood what it means to show up. I didn't name names, but I said plainly, blood doesn't make someone family. Presence does. The 6-minute segment aired that night in prime time. No music, no montage, just my voice, steady and unflinching. And the response was immediate. Strangers reached out. The truth had been spoken, and it no longer belonged only to me. Veterans, widows, and others who knew what it felt like to return to an empty driveway and a house too quiet reached out to me. But the silence in our family group chat was different. My mother left without a word. My brother renamed it from Family Red Heart to just Group. I archived it. Once you've been abandoned in your worst moment, you stop pleading for people to become who they should have already been. This wasn't a revenge story. It was simply the truth, and now it existed beyond their reach. It began quietly. A letter appeared in my mailbox with no return address, only neat handwriting. Inside it read, "I saw you on the news. My husband never made it back. You made me feel less alone." From there, it spread. Local veteran organizations shared the segment. A Gold Star Mothers page reposted the entire clip. A network of military spouses contacted me, offering flowers, food, and shoulders I hadn't asked for but suddenly realized I needed. Then strangers organized a candlelight vigil. Dozens came. People I had never met, but who understood the weight of a folded flag. I stood in the back, hood up, eyes wide. They weren't just mourning with me. They were standing for me, for every person who had ever sat alone at an airport curb when they should have been welcomed with open arms. A girl, barely 16, sang softly, her voice breaking on the words, "I'll carry you home." I almost lost my composure, almost, until I saw my brother at the edge of the crowd, hands in his pockets, head bowed. He didn't speak or approach, but he saw it all. Strangers showing up where family hadn't, a community carrying what blood refused to touch. The next morning, he texted me. No greeting, just, "Didn't think it'd get this big." I stared at the screen, thought of 100 things I wanted to say, and typed back. That's the thing about grief. It either builds walls or it builds bridges. You chose your side. No reply. That was fine. This wasn't for him anymore. It was for the people whispering, "Me too." For those who needed to know dignity can bloom where disappointment once stood. Weeks passed. The flowers didn't stop arriving, nor did the letters. But something shifted inside me. I didn't want to remain just a story people passed along. I wanted to create something lasting. So I did. I called it the Welcome Project, a nonprofit for military spouses who return home alone. We organized airport pickups, meal trains, and care teams. Not pity but presence. Word traveled fast. Within 3 days, volunteers from 5 states signed up. Someone donated a van. Another offered free event space. By week 2, our first welcome team stood at JFK with a sign reading, "We've got you." A photo of that moment went viral. That's when my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice broke by the second sentence. "I didn't know how to help. I didn't think you'd want us there." I deleted it, not out of spite, but out of peace. I didn't need it anymore. Some wounds close not because someone apologizes, but because you stop bleeding for those who watched you drown. My brother sent an anonymous donation receipt. I knew it was him but didn't respond. This wasn't about guilt. It was about building something real, something that met people at the gate when no one else showed. Sometimes you don't burn bridges, you build better ones somewhere else. When people ask how it all began, I smile and say, a flight that landed at 3 p.m. and nobody came. The press called it a quiet revolution. My photo landed on the front page. Arms around a young woman holding a folded flag, her smile fragile, her eyes red. The caption read, "From grief to ground crew. How one widow changed coming home." That same day, a text arrived from an unknown number, just a screenshot of the article. I recognized my mother's number immediately. That evening, I spoke at a memorial for military families. No performance, no theatrics, just the truth. I didn't name names or cast blame. I told them I came home alone, but I didn't stay that way. I spoke about Liam, his laugh, his letters, how he once told me, "If anything happens to me, don't let silence win." And I hadn't. When I stepped off the stage, a woman in pearls touched my arm. "My daughter was on your first welcome pickup," she said, her eyes shining. "You saved her." I held her hand tightly. In the distance, by a tree, I saw my mother and brother. They hadn't been invited. They didn't approach. They simply watched. I didn't wave or smile. Just let the space between us hold everything they'd never said. Because sometimes the harshest consequence isn't rage, it's silence. It's being replaced. It's watching strangers celebrate the daughter you didn't meet at the gate. I once thought closure meant an apology, a message, a moment where the people who hurt you finally say the right words. But it didn't arrive like that. It came one night as I folded a Welcome Project t-shirt into a care kit for another widow I'd never met. The house was calm. No group chats. No waiting for anyone to say, "We're here." Because now, I was the one showing up. And I was never alone. The doorbell rang. A volunteer dropping off supplies. A young couple, both former military, hugged me like we'd known each other for years. In a way we had, not by blood, but by truth, by surviving the silence. I never replied to my mother's last message. I never acknowledged my brother's donation. I never reopened that group chat. Some people bury you with their silence. Others lift you with theirs. That's what I'll tell the next woman who asks how to survive loneliness. You don't rebuild by waiting for them. You rebuild by becoming what they weren't. And one day, when they're standing on the sidelines, watching strangers cheer your name, realizing your story no longer includes them, they'll understand. Too late. And you? You'll already be moving forward. Never alone again.